Hi guys, I wanted to make a quick little update video and share some really cool witchy experiences I have had through this mourning process. So first and foremost, again, thank you so much for your support in my grandmother's passing. I wanted to kind of touch on, while I have this opportunity and this experience to reference, the importance of not suppressing abilities that you may have. I have been given the opportunity to sit here today and say that I successfully made contact with my great-grandmother. Her name was Omega. And while my grandmother was in the hospital and suffering, and then again when she got placed in a hospice and continued to suffer, I had decided that I needed to reach out to my great-grandmother for help, to try to encourage my grandmother to let go, to help her. I have never tried to conjure or speak to any of my dead relatives. I don't like to bother people who have passed on if I don't have to. If there isn't a really good reason to, I feel like the dead should rest. It is their time to do as they please and to come and go as they please, and to be summoned, I feel like you should have a really good reason to be calling them forth. So I didn't always know how to do this. I will tell you that my suppression of this ability began very early on. My first memory of being able to know something before it happened was probably about the age of 6. I had gotten a Valentine present and I immediately got the clearest image of what was in this bag. And at 6, I didn't think anything was wrong with it. It was just, my brother asked me, what do you think you're getting for Valentine's Day? And I told him, I'm getting a stuffed unicorn with a little red heart on its neck. And my brother kind of laughed, but when the day came to open that gift and I pulled that out, I wasn't shocked. I knew that was what I was getting. I can't tell you how I knew, but at that moment, I didn't think anything was wrong with it. It was just known. Kind of like Game of Thrones, like with Khaleesi, like it is known. Like I knew that's what I was getting. And immediately my brother accused me of peeking. I was called a liar. My mother became very upset with me. And I was very confused because they kept asking me, if you didn't peek, how did you know? And at 6, I couldn't tell you how I knew that. I just knew. And again, this continued on with gifts and events and things that would happen. And it was all just kind of summed up into nothing. I became less and less vocal about it. And that's kind of where the suppression began. It wasn't until I really came out of the broom closet and became secure in who I am as a witch and what I do that I decided that I'm no longer gonna hide this like I'm some freak or like I'm something to be ashamed of, and that I was just going to do what I do. And so I want to explain a little bit about how I kind of nurtured that to come forth. The biggest problem, and again, I am wild and untamed when it comes to being clairvoyant or psychic or whatever you want to call it, because I haven't trained. It's something that I'm working on, but it's very much a work in progress. The hardest thing that I have with this ability is separating internal thought from spirit communication. So sometimes spirit communication it comes up as a random thought. And if it's not out of place random, then I can confuse that with internal dialogue, because we all have internal dialogue, right? But spirit communication can feel a lot like that. So it can make you feel crazy, right? Because like for instance, some of the incidents of precog that I've had are I will start having an argument with a person in my brain. And then this instance that I'm thinking about, I received an email that was almost verbatim, word for word, what was playing in my brain. And I think on some level I connected to that person while they were writing the letter. And so it was playing in my brain. But it made me feel crazy at the time. When I reached out to Omega, my great-grandmother, trying to get her to help my grandmother to pass, she, I don't know her, so she was such a reserved spirit, very quiet, very reserved, and I wasn't sure. Sorry, my kids are coming out. I don't know what they're doing. Where are they going? Oh, I think they're gonna go get my son. Okay, sorry about that. Look at my little baby. He's like, you're making a TikTok. Okay, anyways, so where was I? Sorry. Squirrel. So I didn't know her, so when she came forth, again, even after the communication I had with her, which again, she wasn't an assertive spirit, and I asked her for help, and she didn't seem like really gung-ho on it, like, yeah, absolutely, I will go get her, I will help her to leave. It was like, well, I'll try. And I'm like, try? No, I need you to go get her. Like, I need help. And she's like, I'll try. And so before I lost the connection, I asked her, is there anything, my mother Brenda, is there anything you want me to tell her? And she said, bumblebee. And I was like, bumblebee? And she's like, bumblebee, and shows me a bumblebee. And again, so random. And I'm like, this has got to be authentic. Like, this has to be something. So I end up losing the connection. Again, for me in this communication, it's like screaming through water and holding on to her as if I were holding on to the thinnest, most easily broken string you could ever imagine. Again, completely untrained. Maybe this would be easier later on. I have no idea. And so I made contact with my mom afterwards and asked her, does bumblebee mean anything to you? And she's like, I can't think of anything. And I was like, okay, well, just remember that, because that was incredibly random. And she even showed me a picture of one. She was so sure about bumblebee, and she was like, okay. Fast forward to, we're literally bedside. My grandmother is dying right next to us. And I bring it up again because it's driving me crazy. Like, please tell me that meant something. That was so clear. It was the clearest thing of the communication that she had told me. And my mom looks at me and she says, oh my God, I know what it means. And I said, what? And she goes, bumblebee, I know what it means. And I was like, what does it mean? And she said, my grandma was horribly allergic to bumblebees, and your granddad never bought it. Like, she would pass out from anaphylactic shock, and grandpa would think she was being dramatic. And, you know, she loved to garden, but she had this horrific fear of bumblebees, and some of the flowers that she had planted draw bees. And she said, that's so funny. I had never heard this story. My mom had kind of forgotten about it. It's kind of a random fact about, you know, great grandma. And so she asked me to ask my grandpa about Omega and bumblebees and watch his reaction. And I did. And I was like, hey, I heard that great grandma was allergic to bumblebees. And literally the first thing out of his mouth is, oh, hell, she wasn't allergic to bumblebees. And all of a sudden it was like, it was such a validation for me in that moment. And I was so grateful. And my mom cried, and she was so happy to know that I had connected with Omega, and that Omega was trying to give me this image, this symbol, this word to try to make sure that my mama knew that she was there, and that it was her that I was talking to. So anyways, really cool story. And so my advice to anyone that's in my position, that's really trying to nurture this precog ability, is to start writing down every single random thought that comes into your head. If it seems out of place, because there's something about when they talk to you, it's not the same. There's a little bit of difference from your self-talk. And so start to write those things down. And when you're trying to connect, write everything down. And then even if it seems completely bizarre, again, that could be a huge piece of information that you don't even realize. So thank you again for the support. Thank you for you guys that are still buying my book and writing just the best things about it. It has been my little buoy in this sea of sadness. So I am working on the next book. I've put out that I'm going to have it done by February, even though I've kind of hit a hiccup here in editing because I'm doing all of this funeral stuff. I will absolutely hold to that deadline. I'm going to make it happen so I can get that third book out to you guys. I love you so much. If you're little baby precogs like me, keep trying, keep writing, keep testing those waters, keep trying to make contact, keep testing what you're hearing, what you're seeing, and work towards those successes. Remember, everything is a process. Practice, practice, practice. You're not going to start off as an expert. You have to hone your craft. So until next time, guys, love you so much. Bye.